Story 1, David Lynch. Particularly a quote from Twin Peaks. Don't search for all the answers at once. A path is formed by laying one stone at a time. This has become a mantra for me when I'm unsure of what I'm doing in this stupid life. Story 2. He famously came out of retirement after September 11th to help reassure children that they would be safe. And when scary things happen, look for the helpers. Because there will always be helpers. I was a teenager at the time but had grown up watching and loving Mr. Rogers, but that little speech kind of changed my life, or at least how I approach things. As soon as I was of age, I signed up to be a volunteer firefighter so that I could be one of those helpers he was talking about. I did that for about 15 years, but I kind of realized that anyone can be a helper at any time. So I will sometimes go out of my way to do something to help someone, whether it's help somebody move a piece of furniture, pick them up at the airport, collect their mail while they're on vacation, or bring them some gas when they're stranded on the side of the road. These kinds of things take little to no effort but can have an outsized positive impact on others. Sometimes you can't make something happen and be the helper someone needs, but it's important to me to at least try whenever I can, and sometimes to really do something bigger like coach a kid's sports team or help with a fundraiser at school or the library. And I know that no matter what I'm able to do or not do, Mr. Rogers would be proud of me just for being me. So look for the helpers. And if you don't see one, be one. Story 3, Prince. I got divorced because of his death. When the internet first emerged, Prince had a big presence online. He would invite everyone up to Paisley Park for pajama parties. I always figured I could go another time. When Prince died, it made me realize that life is short, and you only get one shot at it. I missed out on opportunities because I figured I had more time. I divorced my cheating spouse, always figured I'd put up with it until the kids were grown, and found the love of my life. No regrets. Story 4. There are 2 lines in his Discworld series that changed how I view things. The first is when Tiffany Aching in Hat Full of Sky talks about third thoughts. The way I've always interpreted her explanation of their rarity and importance is that your first thoughts are your immediate gut reaction, sometimes laced with unconscious bias. Your second thoughts are your reactions to your first. They are a little less common and totally depend on how self-aware you are. They're important, and when you have them, those are the thoughts you usually act on. But third thoughts are even more rare. They are the ones that cause you to be a critical consumer of your first and second thoughts, which can swing you too far from the first, and lead to insight and real change. They are the power thoughts, the ones you strive for, if you're even able to reach them. This piece in the writing has made me so much more thoughtful and empathetic, less reactionary. The second is his exploration in The Night Watch about how poverty breeds poverty when explaining poor people buying boots versus wealthy. It's commonly quoted and a great way of explaining how poverty workers cannot budget themselves to financial stability to people who are entrenched in their views. Story 5. This will be silly, but Allison Hannigan. There's an episode of How I Met Your Mother where Lily and Marshall are in a moving truck eating sloppy joes. When Marshall says he regrets bringing the sloppy joes, it pans over to Lily, face covered in sloppy joe sauce, chowing down, and she says, "What's done is done." That somehow really resonated with me, and I'll say to myself, what's done is done, anytime I am intimidated about a big leap in life. It reminds me just to live in the moment, and that even if my choice leads to a huge mess, I can still just enjoy the outcome for what it is. I've become more bold in life since seeing that episode. Story 6. Before anyone laughs, I'm not talking about the overly commercialized Dolly most people think of today. I'm talking about the true Dolly. When I was in training for my first job, we had to go around the room and say who we admired the most. Everyone was saying their mom, dad, etc. I spoke up and said Dolly Parton. Some giggled, but I wasn't lying. I read her autobiography when I was a senior in high school. Until that point in my life, I thought I was destined to be a housewife with 2.5 kids because that's what good small-town Southern girls do. It was Dolly who opened my eyes to do much more. It was Dolly who instilled that some people are truly meant to be aunts and uncles, not parents. That was some 20 years ago. She gave me the courage to leave my hometown, not have kids, and live a great life. Thanks, Dolly. Story 7. I have a friend I can only refer to as a millennial internet friend. We have never met, but somehow friend each other on Instagram over 10 years ago. She is completely supportive and accepting of my whole self, which is something I am yet to experience with someone I actually know in real life. She is one of my best friends and helped me find myself. We are supposed to hang out soon. We only live one town away from each other. 2. Story 8. Gabor Mate and his book, In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. I read the book early in my new career in addiction medicine, and it has helped to guide my practice and interactions with my patients for the better. I would love to meet him one day and say thank you. Story 9. Watched his stuff as a teenager and, as such, came into adulthood knowing that politics is pageantry designed to keep us fighting among ourselves while the ruling class takes advantage of us at every opportunity. Story 10. Share. I grew up in conservative suburbia in South Texas, the daughter of a Southern Baptist family. Women around me all wore helmet hair and pastel polyester pantsuits. They conformed. Cher was glamorous, talented, bold, and snarky to her husband. Her example gave me the courage to develop a mind of my own. Story 11. It was a university professor. I attended a university open day when I was 18 and expressed an interest in their biology course to some of the representatives at a stall, and a few days after that, I got a call from the head of department himself. He was genial, encouraging, and supportive, and he even said that if I wanted to, I could start university that year in a couple of months' time. My mind was blown. I didn't know anything about funding or grants or where I'd live or anything, so I had to think about it quickly and tell him no, but that I'd definitely go to that university the following year. I ended up taking a year out, and just as well, because I don't think I was ready for university when I was 18. I suspect I'd have ricocheted right off it because when I was 18, I still had a teenage head full of confusion, where I couldn't focus or prioritize. The following year, I was more switched on and much less easily overwhelmed. I passed that course after 4 years and even went back to other universities for a year at a time twice further down the line to get more advanced qualifications. It led to the graduate job I have now, to lifelong friends, to my current projects, and all of it was based on a phone call from a university professor to some part-time kitchen porter and school leaver when I was 18. I never met the guy. He retired from being head of department before I matriculated. That phone call was my only ever contact with him. Professor Owen, if you're still out there, I owe you one. Yes, I attended the open day, but it was your call telling me I could start that year if I wanted to. That got the ball rolling on arguably the most formative, constructive, purposeful, and self-defining times of my entire life. Story 12. My internet friend of over 20 years, 23 years in fact. We don't talk daily, sometimes not even monthly, but if there is a person on this planet that I trust more with all my secrets. Story 13. Bob Dylan. Everyone wants a blurb that they can fit neatly into an overhead compartment, but you will not get far that way. To me, it all circles back to being a rare example of individualism. He demonstrated to me what it is to have the courage to be highly authentic as an artist. Story 14. I was 18 years old. I grew up in a racist household in a racist town, taught racist things. I was racist. I was home from work one day watching Oprah Winfrey's talk show. The subject was racism. A cute, white, red-haired girl was on the panel defending her racist stances, and after quietly watching her rant and rave for an hour, I said out loud, "She's an idiot. All her reasoning was just nonsense." At that moment, it all clicked for me. She was spouting off all the same things I had heard and said for years. A true moment of realization. This is what I sound like. The next week, I had a lot of contemplation and shame about the things I said, thought, and did in my past. I've changed since that day. I was homesick and watching daytime television. I'm an entirely new person since then. I left that town, cut ties with most people of similar minds, read more, listen harder, and try to judge less. I still have faults, but I think I'm a far better person than I was before that day watching that cute, white, red-haired girl. Thank you, red-haired girl. Story 15. Pete Seeger. I sing and perform folk and Americana songs. Pete taught me how to get an audience to sing along, whether that be 5 people around a campfire or 500 people in an auditorium. He used to do it with 5,000 or more people when he gave concerts. He also influenced me with respect to civil rights, environmentalism, and the peace movement. Story 16. How has no one said David Bowie? He is an icon who embraced life with endless curiosity, always exploring new things. His positivity is contagious. Whenever I am feeling down, just hearing him speak brings me joy. Story 17. Gerard Way. Helena. The song he wrote in remembrance of his grandma saved my life. I lost my grandmother about the time the song came out, and I was in such a deep depression, I didn't realize how numb I had become. But hearing that song woke something inside of me that kept me going and keeps me going to this day. I'd love to meet him one day to thank him for saving my life. Story 18. When I was around 9 years old, playing Neopets, I made a Neo friend, essentially an electronic pen pal. She was another young girl, a couple of years older than me, and she had cancer. We would talk all the time, and she would tell me when she wasn't feeling good, etc. Since she was so sick, she couldn't go to school and didn't really have other friends. One day, I was talking to her before I left for school, and she told me she was supposed to have surgery that afternoon. She was scared but told me she would message me when she got out of surgery. I came home that day to no message and just assumed that she must still be at the hospital. I checked every day for months, and the message never came. She never logged in again. I don't know if she changed my life, but she definitely stuck with me. Story 19. This will sound silly, but some random girls I played Fortnite with and didn't even talk to. I was on a squad with 3 girls who were obviously friends. I didn't say anything all match, but the girls were having fun playing together and joking around. They thought I was playing as a cute character, so they kept making me dance for them so they could go, "Aw." They were reviving me later, and one kept telling me, "It's okay, little baby. Mommy's here now," and they all laughed. The next day, I was thinking that it was interesting to see how girls acted when they thought it was just them and no guys around, and that led to me thinking about how recent developments in America will affect these girls. It made it more personal because I want to live in a world where those girls are happy and relaxed and act just like they did in that Fortnite match. Dumb, I know, but it made it less abstract of an idea. Story 20. Alan Rickman. I've never been into following celebrities, but his acting was so varied and stunning that I truly missed him when he died. I also bought a cardboard cutout and made a shrine for the laughs. Story 21. Arlo, the Muppet YouTuber, made me realize my extreme anxiety is caused by attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I just thought attention deficit hyperactivity disorder was when kids were hyperactive, bouncing off the walls, and doing badly at school, which was the opposite of me. After Arlo talked about his mental health, I realized at the age of 38 that I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and so much of my life suddenly made perfect sense. His gaming takes are garbage, though. Story 22. Everyone on here who has had kind words for me on my cancer posts, I want to thank you. Sometimes I don't have the strength to support myself, but everyone here is right there for me when I need them. Story 23. Eddie Vedder helped to reparent me when I was an isolated, emotionally crushed teen in an abusive household. The new Pearl Jam album this year had me in bits as well. I guess he's still reparenting me in thousands. Story 24. Laura Jane Grace. I was always an Against Me fan, but I drifted away from them. Then Transgender Dysphoria Blues came out, and the amount of self-realization that came with it was staggering. I had never felt a deep connection to lyrics quite like that album. Hearing someone put my thoughts and feelings into 3-minute punk songs so succinctly was life-changing. Story 25. Hermione Granger as a role model. She doesn't exist. Does that count as never meeting her? Made me realize I needed to stop being a rude, abrasive teenager and put effort into my schoolwork. That acquiring knowledge is a fun thing to keep the mind occupied, to find your own values and opinions, to think about the world around us. Went from lower education to university and have only had interesting jobs since. Thanks, Granger. Story 26. Anthony Bourdain. He showed us that it was okay to leave our hometowns and experience the world. No one else in my life supported my dreams of leaving, but his shows told me it was okay to go. Losing him to suicide was soul-crushing. Story 27. Tommy Emmanuel, probably the most fantastic guitar player on the planet, During an interview was asked, "Do you ever rehearse and practice?" He answered, "I'm practicing right now," as he sat on the hotel room bed playing his guitar during the interview. He said if he doesn't practice hours every day, there's no way he could maintain his skill set and hope to get better. Yes, even the best guitar player in the world hopes to get better and practices every day to achieve that. That completely changed my individual daily practice routine. Now I really dig in, and I'm progressing in leaps and bounds. Thanks, Tommy. Story 28, Rush Limbaugh, but not for positive influence. Growing up, my stepdad was obsessed with Rush. He would make me listen to all of his ramblings and hatred-spewing nonsense. Once I was no longer around that man, I made a conscious decision that I wanted to be the total opposite of his heroes, especially people like Rush Limbaugh.